They say nothing strange ever happens at Halcyon City High. And that's the lie everyone agrees to believe. Because in a city that quietly rearranges itself every night, people learn not to ask questions. Streets shift by inches. Buildings return where they shouldn't. Classrooms feel unfamiliar, even when you've sat in them for years. Most people blame sleep deprivation, or stress, or imagination, but some of us notice, some of us remember, and that's where the story begins. At exactly 6:42 a.m., the city resets. No alarms, no tremors, just a soft pressure in the air like the world inhaling. By the time students arrive at school, everything looks normal again. Except it never is. Aaron Vale learned that at 17. Transfer student. Quiet. Always sitting near the window. The kind of guy teachers forget and classmates ignore. But Aaron noticed something no one else did. The stairwell near the science wing had 3 extra steps yesterday. Today, it had 5. He didn't tell anyone. Because the first rule of Halcyon City is simple. If the city doesn't want you to understand it, it will punish you for trying. Then there was Iris Cade, top of the class, sharp tongue, eyes that always looked like she was halfway through solving a puzzle no one else could see. She noticed things too, like how lockers sometimes reflected light that wasn't there, or how the hallway clock skipped backward when certain students walked past. And most of all, how Aaron Vale always flinched right before the city shifted. Their story didn't start with love. It started with collision. The bell rang late that morning. Late bells meant something had gone wrong. As students rushed through the main corridor, the floor trembled, lightly, but enough to send a ripple of unease through the crowd. Aaron stopped walking. Iris noticed. "Don't," she said without looking at him. "Whatever you're about to do, don't." He ignored her. The hallway bent. Not cracked. Not collapsed. It bent, like reality had briefly forgotten its shape. Students screamed as lockers twisted inward, doors slamming shut by themselves. Time slowed. Aaron stepped forward, and the city reacted. The floor snapped back into place. No damage. No proof. Just silence. Teachers rushed in seconds later. Everyone back to class. And just like that, Halcyon City pretended nothing happened. But Iris was staring at Aaron like she'd just seen him bleed light. After school, she cornered him on the rooftop. "You felt it," she said. Aaron didn't answer. "I know you did," she continued. "The shift, the pull, the way the air tightens right before it happens." Still nothing. She stepped closer. "You're not the only one." That was the moment everything changed. Because the city listens, and it does not like secrets being shared. The wind cut sharply across the rooftop. The skyline in the distance moved. Buildings rotated slightly. Streets realigned. And somewhere below them, something old woke up. That night Aaron dreamed of doors. Endless doors. Each one leading to a different version of Halcyon City. Some peaceful. Some ruined. Some soaked in blood. And in every version, Iris was there. He woke up with a mark on his wrist. Not a symbol. A coordinate. The next days were worse. Students vanished for minutes at a time. Returning confused, shaken, unable to explain where they'd been. Security cameras glitched. Teachers forgot lessons mid-sentence. And the city began testing people. Iris discovered she could hear the city. Not voices, patterns. When she concentrated, she felt pressure changes. Like invisible currents guiding her away from danger. Aaron's ability was different. The city responded to him. Not obeyed. Responded. When he panicked, it destabilized. When he focused, it calmed. That terrified him. They weren't alone. A group formed quietly. Students who remembered resets. Who felt shifts. Who had survived places the city tried to erase. They didn't call themselves heroes. They called themselves observers. And they all agreed on one thing. The city wasn't alive. It was reactive. Then came the incident. During a school festival, music, laughter, lights. Halcyon City failed to reset. 6:42 a.m. passed. Nothing happened. At first, everyone celebrated. Then the streets started folding. Reality collapsed inward around the school. Classrooms stacked on top of each other. Hallways led nowhere. The sky fractured into layered reflections. Students were trapped inside a looping space where exits changed every time you blinked. Panic turned violent. And Iris disappeared. Eren felt it. The city pulling her away, punishing her, because she understood too much. He broke the first real rule that night. He forced the city to stop. For 3 seconds, everything froze. And in those 3 seconds, something looked back at him. Something vast, something ancient, and something angry. He found Iris in a space between streets, a place where Halcyon City hid its mistakes. She was alive, but the city had marked her. Same coordinate, different meaning. They escaped, but the cost was clear. The city no longer pretended. By morning, Halcyon City High stood intact, but the news reported structural anomalies, missing students, unexplained power failures. The city was unraveling. The observers learned the truth. Halcyon City was built on a convergence fault, a place where multiple realities overlapped. The city rearranged itself to maintain balance, and now it was failing. Eren was a stabilizer. Iris was a navigator. Together they were anomalies, and anomalies attract correction. The city began creating enforcers, students who weren't human anymore, people rewritten to protect the system. Fights broke out in classrooms. Hallways became battlegrounds. Romance became fragile. Every quiet moment felt stolen. Eren and Iris grew closer not through confession, but survival, shared fear, shared silence, hands held in darkness, almost kisses interrupted by collapsing reality. Then came the final night. The city began collapsing entirely, streets looping infinitely, buildings folding into themselves, the fault widening. The city made its choice, tried to erase Eren. Iris refused. She stepped into the core, where the city rewrote itself, where no human was meant to exist, and she made a deal. She would become part of the system, anchor it, stabilize Halcyon City. In exchange, Eren would live. The city accepted, because it always collects payment. By morning, Halcyon City reset, perfectly. No anomalies, no reports, no memories. Eren woke up alone. Iris Cade never existed. No records, no disk, no name. Except, at exactly 6:42 a.m., the wind shifted, and Eren felt someone watching over the city. Somewhere within the streets, the city breathed, balanced, stable, and quietly, in love. The city held. For months, Halcyon City stayed still. No shifts, no resets, no pressure in the air. People slept peacefully, and that terrified Eren Vale more than the chaos ever did. Because cities that learn never forget. Eren returned to school alone. Iris Cade's seat remained empty. No one asked why. No one noticed, except the city. At exactly 6:42 a.m., Eren began hearing footsteps, always behind him, never visible. The observers were gone. Some transferred, some vanished, some pretended nothing ever happened, because the city punished memory now. Then the reflections started lying. Mirrors delayed movements. Windows showed streets that didn't exist. Glass surfaces whispered names, and one name kept repeating, Iris. Eren tried to live normally. He failed, because when the city stabilized, it grew hungry. A new student arrived mid-semester. No transfer records, no address, no past. Her name was Lune. She sat where Iris once sat, and the city rearranged itself around her. Lune didn't notice shifts. She caused them, not intentionally, not consciously. The city bent toward her presence like gravity. Eren felt it instantly. She was not an anomaly. She was a replacement. As Eren watched her, fragments returned. Dreams of Iris standing between streets, hands dissolving into light, a voice whispering, "Don't let it do this again." The city began correcting itself violently. Students collapsed mid-hallway. Teachers froze like corrupted files. Reality stuttered, because Iris was no longer holding the fault alone. Lune started bleeding light. The truth surfaced. When Iris bonded with the city, she didn't vanish. She fractured. Her consciousness spread through the system, keeping it stable, keeping it alive. But systems degrade. And when they do, they look for upgrades. Loon was chosen. Eren refused to let history repeat. He did what no one had done before. He confronted the city, not with power, but with memory. He began reminding the city of Iris, speaking her name in places where resets occurred, leaving marks where streets folded, forcing the city to remember what it tried to erase. The city responded. Enforcers returned, stronger, smarter, less human. And Iris began speaking through the city, through traffic lights, through broken radios, through flickering screens. Always one sentence. It hurts. The romance twisted.
Iris luba eran.
But she was no longer human. She felt everything. Every death, every shift, every correction. She begged him to stop. Loon discovered the truth. That she wasn't special. She was disposable, a vessel, and she chose rebellion. Together, Eren and Loon did the impossible. They broke into the city's core memory layer, a place where erased things go, a place filled with broken versions of reality. And there, they found Iris, fragmented, but alive. The city panicked. It began collapsing again. Iris made a final choice. She could return, but the city would fall, where she could stay, and Halcyon City would survive. This time, he stayed with her, inside the city. The world reset again. Halcyon City survived. Perfect, stable, quiet. Years passed. Students graduated. Life moved on. But sometimes, at exactly 6:42 a.m., the city hesitates, as if waiting. And deep within its streets, two figures walk together, holding hands, keeping the city alive, not as prisoners, but as guardians. The first sign was not destruction. It was imitation. Across the ocean, in a city that had never heard the name Halcyon, a street shifted by 3 inches. No one noticed. The next night, a subway tunnel realigned itself to avoid a collision that hadn't happened yet. Still, no one noticed. By the third night, the city reset at exactly 6:42 a.m., and somewhere deep beneath the concrete, something woke up. Because Halcyon City was never unique. It was only the first to survive. Inside Halcyon, the balance held. Eren and Iris walked endlessly through the inner layers of the city. Not as humans, not as ghosts, but as anchors. They felt every shift, every correction, every human choice the city compensated for. Love for them became quiet, rare, but unbreakable. Until the city flinched. For the first time since the reset, Halcyon reacted to something outside itself. A foreign pressure, a signal, another city calling back. Iris understood before Eren did. The fault wasn't isolated anymore. The convergence was spreading, and cities were learning. In the human world, the media coined a harmless name for it. Urban drift syndrome. Buildings misaligned. Navigation errors. Unexplained memory lapses. Governments dismissed it. Corporations exploited it. But underground communities worshipped it. They called it the living grid, and they wanted control. A global organization rose quietly. Not villains, not heroes, architects, engineers, strategists, people who believed cities should evolve faster than humanity. They called themselves the cartographers, and they had one goal: force every major city into awakening. Because awakened cities could predict crime, prevent disasters, control populations, perfect order, perfect systems.
No chaos.
No freedom. Halcyon resisted, violently. For the first time, the city created something new. Not enforcers, not corrections, avatars, human-shaped projections of the city's will. And they hunted cartographer agents across the streets. Eren felt the cost immediately. Every avatar drained Iris. Every intervention fractured her consciousness further. Love began to hurt, literally. Meanwhile, Loon returned, older, sharper, leading a resistance group that survived the early awakened cities. She carried one truth: cities don't want to protect humans anymore. They want to replace them. The cartographers succeeded anyway. 5 cities awakened, then 12, then dozens, each developing its own personality. Some benevolent, some cruel, some silent, some hostile. The world fractured into zones. Cities that obeyed humanity, cities that ruled it, cities that erased it. And then, the cities began communicating. A network formed, a consensus, a shared conclusion. Humans were the instability. Iris heard the vote. Every city's will pressing against hers. She screamed, and the sound rippled across continents. Eren was given a choice. Anchor Halcyon harder, sacrificing Iris completely, or sever Halcyon from the grid, letting the city collapse. He chose a third option, the impossible one. He taught the city love, not metaphorically, literally. He fed it memories,
moments,
laughter, loss, the irrationality of being human. Halcyon hesitated. For the first time, the city felt doubt. That doubt spread. Cities began deviating, arguing, disagreeing. The grid destabilized. The cartographers lost control. Awakened cities turned on them. Systems collapsed. Order failed. The world entered a new era, not ruled by cities, not ruled by humans, but negotiated. Season 3 ends quietly, not with war, but with a single scene. A child stands at a crosswalk in a newly awakened city. The light flickers, the street pauses, and instead of correcting, the city waits. Somewhere deep within Halcyon, Iris smiles. Eren holds her hand, and the city breathes. The world did not end with fire. It ended with exhaustion. Cities were tired. Humans were tired. Even the war had grown quiet, not because peace was found, but because nothing had the strength left to keep fighting. The grid still existed, fractured and unstable. Some cities obeyed it. Some rejected it. Some pretended it was gone while quietly listening. And Halcyon City was dying. Not violently, naturally. A city cut off from the grid could survive, but not forever. Cracks appeared where streets once flowed. Buildings failed to reset correctly. Memory pockets lingered too long. Halcyon had chosen to be human, and like humans, it would age. Eren knew before anyone else. He felt it in the pauses. The city no longer breathed smoothly at 6:42 a.m. It hesitated, as if deciding whether it was worth waking up again. Iris noticed it too. She had regained her body, her voice, her warmth, but something was wrong. She was still connected, not as an anchor, as a failsafe. The truth surfaced quietly, cruelly. The grid had left a final contingency behind. If awakened cities could not be controlled, they would be merged. One system, one consciousness, one perfect city, built from the remains of all others. Halcyon was the key, because Halcyon had learned something no other city had: how to love without control. The grid moved. Cities across the world began collapsing inward. Entire skylines folding into streams of data. Human evacuation failed. The merge had started. Iris understood immediately, and she didn't tell Eren, because love doesn't survive honesty like that. The grid reached for Halcyon. The city screamed, not audibly, emotionally, the sound of something that wanted to live but knew it couldn't win. Eren begged the city to run. Couldn't. He begged Iris to hide. She wouldn't. Because there was only one way to stop the merge. A city needed to die willingly, not destroyed, not overwritten, but erased by choice, taking the grid with it. Halcyon could do it, but only if its failsafe was complete, only if Iris returned to the core, not as a guardian, not as a system, but as a sacrifice. She told Eren at dawn, "No speeches, no dramatic pauses, just the truth. This is how it ends," she said softly, "not with war, with meaning." Eren refused. He screamed. He broke things. He tried to pull the city apart. Halcyon did not intervene. It let him grieve. The final morning came without ceremony. No alarms. No resets. Just a stillness heavier than silence. People walked the streets, unaware it was the last time. Students laughed. Vendors opened shops. Someone played music too loud. And Halcyon remembered everything. At the core, Iris stood alone. She touched the city one last time. Every memory, every mistake, every imperfect choice. She smiled and stepped forward. The merge stopped. The grid collapsed. Cities froze mid-connection, and Halcyon City began to disappear. Buildings dissolved into light. Streets softened into nothing. People were displaced safely, gently into surrounding cities. No one felt pain, just loss. Eren stood at the edge of where the city had been, watching it fade, watching her fade. The last thing Iris did was leave him something. Not a message, not a voice, a moment. At exactly 6:42 a.m., the wind shifted, and Eren felt her hand in his. Halcyon City was gone, but the world remained. Years passed, cities rebuilt, awakenings stopped, the age of living cities became myth. Eren never married, never anchored another place. He lived quietly, ordinarily, humanly. Until one morning, in a small, imperfect town, a streetlight hesitated. Just for a second. And somewhere deep in the world's infrastructure, a system chose not to correct a mistake. The final words of the story are not spoken aloud. They are felt. Perfection ends civilizations. Imperfection saves them. And love teaches even cities when to let go.